or the first term of our next guest, Jeff Johnson. We certainly understand, Jeff, that you have philosophical differences with your opponent. I appreciate you coming on, by the way.
Yes.
And we'll get to some of those differences, but let me just get to your boldest comment of all that you came out with recently and get you to react. You said, and if I have this wrong, let me know, but I saw it a couple places, Mark Dayton is not competent to run the state. What did you mean by that?
Well, I brought it up yesterday during the press conference after we saw the MNsure news that came out yesterday and this news about Thomas Duvall and the sex offender program. And there are lots of little examples, actually not little, but there are a lot of examples over the past 3.5 years where Dayton clearly isn't engaged and I don't believe capable or competent of managing government. But these two examples they just kind of take the cake and they make some of these others look small in comparison. And I don't believe he's up to the job. And especially when you look at what happened yesterday and what has happened overall with MNsure, this has been just an unmitigated disaster, and it's actually getting worse rather than better.
Preferred One, the fact that they left is a serious blow to a lot of people. I don't think anybody should have realistically expected that everybody was going to stand for the duration. We'll get into why Preferred One left, but why, in your opinion, is that the responsibility of the governor?
Well, he from day one, he desperately wanted to be the first state to implement Obamacare, and I don't think we won out. I think we were second or third. He handpicked the board. He handpicked the staff. This is his organization. This is his biggest accomplishment, I believe, probably, if you were to ask him. And it has had one disaster after another, but this one in particular is, this really affects a lot of people. It's not that the website stinks, or it's not that they're not, handling the administration well. We're talking about thousands of people now who have gone through the nightmare of getting insurance through MNsure, now are probably going to have to go through that same nightmare again and end up with insurance with significantly higher premiums than what they had the first time.
So what should happen to those folks? What is the Jeff Johnson plan if you end up winning in early November?
Number one, replace the board, replace at least the top staff, and start over, because they clearly can't manage the program at all.
Does that include Scott Lights?
Absolutely, yes.
So he should be fired?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely. And I think we probably need to clean house probably further down than that, but that is a starting point. And then I believe that you need to start introducing more competition into MNsure, which is going to require legislative changes. I think we should change the rulemaking exemptions that they've been given as a board that allows them to make decisions without the public input that other agencies are required to have. And then outside of that, I believe that we need to start removing some of the barriers to competition for the private sector outside of MNsure. The bottom line, we need more options and choices for consumers. That's the big problem with the entire Obamacare MNsure philosophy, which is government should narrow the choices to those things that we believe are good for people or are adequate for people, and give people more options.
It does seem from the great volume of stories on this and the other research that the states and the regions where they have more companies involved, we all have better options, and the prices come down. So how do we do that here in Minnesota? What is the governor himself in his policy and his philosophy? What is he doing specifically to limit more companies from passing on Minnesota as an entree to more business?
By appointing the board members. I mean, these board members are making those decisions as to which policies they're allowing into the exchange and which they aren't, and they have very much limited the competition, and those are the governor's hand-picked folks. And so I think you need people on that board who actually understand that the basic concept that you just brought up, which is more choice and more competition, tends to bring prices down and also tends to bring quality up. And we've just gone in the opposite direction.
When you make a major change, such as MNsure, and I certainly understand philosophically you're against it, and there are obviously millions who agree with you, but it's unavoidable that early on you're going to have some significant hurdles you're going to clear. We've had many issues on the private side where things started out slow, but now they are so successful that we all forget about them. Is it just your belief that with the government's involvement, that it's not just the short term, that these issues will stay in perpetuity for just as long as this is going to take place?
Well, I'll be honest. I have, throughout this campaign, I keep saying to people that the problem is not a broken website or the administration, because that's eventually going to get fixed. But I am starting to question whether that's ever going to get fixed, whether it's ever going to get better. The fact that we've spent over $100 million and still don't even have a website that works. They're having to handle a lot of these issues by hand, which is one of the reasons that if you have a new baby, it takes months to get them into your insurance through MNsure, which is crazy. In the private sector, that takes a phone call and usually 24 hours. The fact that what Preferred One told us is one of their reasons for backing out was that it was an administrative nightmare, and that they actually had policyholders in the Minnesota exchange that weren't Minnesota residents, because MNsure couldn't even figure that part out. This is an example, one example after another of just gross mismanagement, and we keep the same people in there and we keep the same rules in place, and it's time for a dramatic change.
Jeff, hold on. I want to take a very short break. I want to get to some of those other issues, including Thomas Duvall and the huge dilemma that the state faces when we have sex offenders who commit some of the worst acts any of us can think of, but should they just go away forever? Do we ever evaluate these individuals and say, they've reached a point where they've served their time and they've had enough treatment that they should be released back in society? Okay, more with Jeff Johnson after this short pause. It's 1:48. Time to search for custom replacement windows. Search Wellington Home Improvements.
Chad Hartman on News Radio 830 WCCO.
Introducing Olive Garden's new 45-minute pronto lunch guarantee. From the time you sit down to the time you pay the check, it'll be 45 minutes or less, or your meal is free. So go ahead and enjoy lunchtime favorites like unlimited homemade soup, salad, and fresh-baked breadsticks, because you shouldn't have to take a long lunch to have a great lunch. The 45-minute lunch guarantee, every Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. For a limited time only at participating restaurants. Olive Garden, we're all family here.
It has long been written in the pages of history that humans will make great sacrifices in pursuit of treasure, to unlock the mysteries of magic, discover secrets of the new world, and stand victorious in battle. Now, at the Minnesota Renaissance Festival, you don't need to sacrifice to have all these adventures for you and your family. Discover the magic waterfalls and gardens of Mermaid Cove. Revel in the mysteries hidden in Fairy Wing Forest. Meet the Viking conquerors and find yourself sitting upon the all-new Throne of Swords. Your adventures await you each weekend, August 16th through September 28th, rain or shine. Discount tickets available online or at Walgreens, Super America, Whole Foods, and Menards. For more information, visit RenaissanceFest.com. Your adventure awaits.
For more information, click on your media player now. 16 stages of entertainment, wonderful food, beer and wine tastings, and so much more. Running weekends to Labor Day through September 28th in Shakopee.
Progressive presents Flo's newest smash hit. The Name Your Price tool gives you lots of coverage options.
The Name Your Price tool. You give us a budget and we'll show you a range of coverage options. But we can't go over all the dessert options. Your server will be back in just a second and he'll explain.
The Name Your Price tool, only from Progressive. Visit Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Holiday Inn offers business and family-friendly hotel accommodations and services at an excellent value. The refresh of our hotels globally initiated significant changes both inside and out. When you choose Holiday Inn, you'll find hotel accommodations that are as close to your own home as possible, because we believe you are at your very best when you can truly be yourself. Book early and save by calling 1-800-597-9769 today. That's 1-800-597-9769.
Doran for CBS Radio News.
nightstand. One major hotel chain is now leaving a little envelope for you to put the money in. This is John Williams. How much should you tip? Today at 3. Live from the Land O'Lakes studios on News Radio 830 WCCO.
Right back with Republican candidate for Governor Jeff Johnson, who is with us. A report on the Tribune story from this week. Thomas Duvall, a rapist who was admitted to attacking at least 60 women, withdrew his petition for a provisional discharge from the Minnesota Sex Offender Program Monday after both Human Services Commissioner Lucinda Johnson and an assistant filed letters to the court last week saying they opposed the provisional discharge. This became an issue months ago when many people, including almost all the Republican opponents, Jeff Johnson included, felt like the governor wasn't strong enough in opposing Duvall's potential release. Jeff, in no way am I going to play the role of defending someone who committed the acts that Thomas Duvall did, but we have so many individuals who serve time, have treatment. Are we ever going to get to a point where even one single individual is ever released back into everyday society?
I don't know, but here's the problem that we have, that the governor has been unwilling to show any leadership. This is a really tough issue, and he's been unwilling to show leadership that is desperately needed right now because the courts have told us that the program we have right now is probably unconstitutional. The fact that we have 600 and some people in this system and none, I don't think any, has ever been released, the courts have said you can't keep doing that. And if we don't fix it legislatively, the court has also told us that they'll fix it for us. And the only fix, I think, would be for them to start letting some of these guys out. And these are the worst of the worst that are part of the MSOP program. These aren't small-time guys. These are almost all serial rapists. They're violent people. And probably none of them should be back out on the streets again.
But nobody politically, let's just be honest, thinks it's prudent to have this conversation in an election year. And when the governor brought it up last year, well ahead of the election, he was attacked so strongly that he just backed away. So let's say you win. Okay, let's say as of early November, you're the next governor. And then, when they convene again next year, will you make this a point where you have the first of your 4 years to find a way to continue to adjust this program?
Absolutely. I have said that would probably be my first act, is to sit down with the Republican leaders in the House and Senate and the DFL leaders in the House and Senate and frankly lock us all in a room until we can figure out what everyone can live with to fix this problem. It's not going to be, there's not a pretty solution to this. Politically, it's just really difficult. As governor, I'm not going to get to say, here's what we're going to do and shove it down everybody's throat, because we're going to have at least DFL control of the Senate since they're not up, and everyone will be afraid that it'll be used against them politically. So what is required is leadership that we're just not seeing, and bringing both parties together and saying, what can we all live with, and not turn this into a political football, because that is the only way we're going to be able to keep the most dangerous of these guys, including Thomas Duvall, in prison, and not let them back out on the street again.
When you joined me about a month ago, you were honest enough to say, if an election, when I asked you if an election was held that day, you said, well, name recognition-wise and people getting to know me better, I probably wouldn't win. Polling has come out, still showing a pretty significant gap, but I'll say this, an enormous amount of undecideds.
Yes.
What do you need to do to get those undecideds to side with you?
I need to get up on the air. That's the bottom line. I need to get my message out. We're traveling all over the state, certainly doing the retail politics, and I'll continue that. But TV is still king. We'll be on rural radio, and we will be. We've got a pretty aggressive social media program, but it's television that when you have lower name recognition, that gets people to know you. So we'll be on TV in the next couple weeks, and we'll be on solid through the election. And if I can mention those polls, we've actually had 5 polls in the last 2 weeks, and the Star Tribune, the most recent one, was a bit of an outlier, but I've been down by single digits in 4 of them, and then the Star Tribune had me down by 12. And so even if you can include that one in and average them out, I'm down by probably 8 points, which is actually, for us, was quite pleasantly surprising because we were expecting maybe mid-teens. I haven't spent any money yet and have been pummeled by about $500,000 of really negative and frankly very misleading ads.
Do you have the money?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's why we're gonna go up on the air soon. So we'll be able to compete probably close to dollar for dollar with the governor's campaign. The outside money I have no control over. They certainly have been spending it at a pretty fast clip against me, and I suspect we'll see some outside money in favor of me. But yeah, we're going to be able to get the message out there quite effectively.
Thank you, Jeff. We'll reach out to you soon.
Okay, thanks, Chad.
Jeff Johnson with us. We often reach out to the governor's office. We've had him on. We'd like to have him on more, so we'll make that plea again publicly. In fact, we had the governor all lined up to join us. We had set up an interview with the governor ahead of any show here by a couple weeks, and then at the last moment we're told he was unavailable. So once again, the governor is invited about anytime he'd like.
WCCO is giving you